Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Chief Petty Officer Darren Tobler. We warmly welcome Wing Commander Michael Garside, Australian War Memorial Air Force Fellow, and Flight Lieutenant Sean McGill, representing Air Force Association. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. And during this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Warrant Officer Alexis Charles Mineeff. Alexis Mineeff was born on the 20th of February 1921 in Newcastle, the son of John and Annie Mineeff. Alexis grew up alongside his brother Nicholas and sisters Marusa and Eugene in Glenbrook in the Blue Mountains. His father was a Russian-born immigrant who had served in Europe with the Australian Imperial Force in the First World War. He died in 1931 when Alexis was just 10 years old. Further tragedy struck 5 years later when a bushfire swept through the town and burned down the family home. Alexis Mineeff attended Penrith Intermediate High School and was fond of tennis, cricket, cycling and swimming. After leaving school, he worked as a clerk and took a correspondence course in accountancy. On the 19th of July 1941, Mineeff enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force at the age of 20. He trained as a wireless operator and air gunner, and in June 1942 received his badge and was made sergeant. Mineeff embarked for overseas service from Sydney on the 13th of November 1941, arriving in Canada in December. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,000 RAAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, gunners and engineers who joined Australian and British squadrons in Britain throughout the course of the war. Mineeff underwent months of training in Canada and that December was promoted to Flight Sergeant. In October 1942, he left for England and further specialist training. In May 1943, he was posted to number 463 Squadron, RAAF. As part of the Bomber Command, the squadron flew 4-engined Avro Lancaster heavy bombers. On the night of the 24th of June 1944, Bomber Command launched a major raid on a flying bomb site at Prouville in France. Mineeff was the wireless operator and air gunner on board Lancaster J for Jig, which took off from the Royal Air Force Base at Waddington at about 10:45 p.m. The squadron committed 18 aircraft to the mission, but 3 failed to return, including the J for Jig. It was later discovered the aircraft was attacked by a German fighter aircraft, causing an explosion. Flying Officer Arthur Siddle was thrown clear of the aircraft and managed to land safely, whereupon he was made a prisoner of war. The rest of the crew were not so lucky. The plane's debris was later found at Longvalet, 10 kilometres east of the target. Killed along with Warrant Officer Alexis Mineeff were Australians: Pilot Officer Jeffrey Tilbrook, Warrant Officer Hubert Carlisle, and Flight Sergeant Maxwell Lack, and British Sergeants David Dow and Charles Penn. After the war, the remains of the Commonwealth servicemen buried in Europe were examined and identified where possible. Investigations located the remains of Warrant Officer Mineeff at the St Pierre Cemetery in Amiens, and he was reinterred there under the inscription, "His duty nobly done, ever remembered." He was 23 years old. Warrant Officer Alexis Mineeff's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. Now we remember Warrant Officer Alexis Charles Mineeff, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.